Holly said, "Greetings, citizens of Azeroth. It's been great time seeing so many people take the plunge into Plunderstorm, and we've loved seeing all the stories and feedback as this experimental event evolves. It is just an experiment, bro. This isn't the end of things we want to try in World of Warcraft. It'd be pretty sad if it was.
That would be hilarious.
That's it. No more.
Sorry, you were too mad about us trying things. We're not trying anything anymore. Goodbye, good night.
We have cancelled Delves."
That'd be great.
But this is not the end of things we want to try in World of Warcraft. However, and we have more in store that we can't wait to show you. Dragonflight Season 4 is en route and testing begins on the PTR, and we'll have more news to share soon, TM, on the next experiment we have up our sleeves. We hope those of you who are looking for a PvE focused content will enjoy what we're planning.
So there you go.
Yes.
Anti-PvPers, BTFO, by getting content now. Very nice.
And this is kind of reiterating two tweets that Holly made. And the most recent one is more context on, it's just below that, more context on modern experiments. We are in a twilight, in the twilight of
Twilight reference. Oh my God, Hour of Twilight, Cataclysm reference. We've got it.
I mean, I have unironically said Hour of Twilight in like 2 videos recently. So.
Yeah. Yes, it's been on my head as well.
It's coming. The Awakening, which is also, it's weird, Awakening, our Season 4 affix, but so far it doesn't seem to do anything, even though the Awakening is like a major plot point, it would seem. Anyhow, Holly goes on to say, we're in the twilight of an expansion. It's the Hour of Twilight. They're going to usher in the 2 experiments that will kill World of Warcraft for good. It turns out It turns out the War Within is, in fact, Plunderstorm and what's to follow. Anyway, she says, now it is time for us to spin up some experiences, learn, grow. We know we can't please everyone, but we see you all for Azeroth. Which, I like her tone. I like her tone through all of these things. She seems to be reasonable, and she does seem to understand things. Now, in the previous one, she did talk about PvE curious stuff. She said, for all you PvEers curious what we have in store for you, and then an exploding panda. So that does kind of suggest that time running Pandemonium is actually the experimental event thing. I think the question is, do you see Dragonflight, Plunderstorm, Pandemonium?
No.
Oh.
Because no. I had a good reason.
No.
It escaped me.
Because no.
No.
Absolutely not. It will not happen.
No, I have convened with the universe, and the universe has said the vibes are off today. No. I imagine that because of the things we've seen data mined around that, anything involving Panda and involving time will inevitably involve the things we've seen in the data mining, like the story stuff. So there's a heavy implication from data mining that whatever time running Pandemonium is not exclusively, there could be more to it than this, but there was stuff about the basically storylines in the way that the game handles storylines, and the way you see your you open your
that object,
and you see the thingy,
we have that later. We have that later.
Yeah, so all that stuff's there.
Yeah, in our docs. So yes, it does seem to be that now. Initially, people saw time running Pandemonium. Wowhead did a post speculating about the challenge modes of Mists of Pandaria, which are actually pretty damn good. Holly said, "Could it be even better than that?" And I think that's taken on some new context now. This brings us on to some bits of time. Not of time running, of data mining, which is a different verb. So right, we've got the Time Runner's starter kit and bandages. So, I mean, who knows what's inside the starter kit? Maybe the bandages are, but the bandages reduce, it says reduce movement speed by 50%.
That's a good bandage.
Yeah, I have to imagine they'll I don't know, do you just trip? Yes, they might just add health to that bandage. What amazing speculation. There's also some other items. So we have a time running staff that reduces movement speed by 200% on use. There's boots that give you a short roll. There's wrist wraps that make your attacks apply chill, slowing enemy movement speed. And whenever the stacks of chill add up, they take a bunch of power and get stunned. There's also wrist wraps that do a similar thing, but for burning. There's a poison version and also a healing one, right? There's also then socketed stuff. So there's wrist wraps with a socket. a shoulder piece with a with a socket as well, and then a whole bunch of gems, which currently just say they increase the power level of the piece of gear that they're put in.
No, power level increases with the level of socketed item. So you don't need multiple different levels of your emeralds or opals or rubies. They'll just be in there.
And what these are giving is health regen, speed, leech, haste, and critical strike.
So this is interesting because I actually was fairly convinced in how my brain was kind of parsing all of this that it would be a single player kind of thing. But I didn't ever see these. I didn't ever see the wrist wraps out of the Sanctify, because that's like healing. You know, healing an ally will sanctify a nearby injured ally. Obviously, it could be NPC allies, but at the same time, you're like, wouldn't make sense for them to make a single player game if they had the option. So I'm assuming this could actually end up being like a small party-based thing as well, which would be substantially more interesting, I think.
Yeah, I think it would be more interesting for their core audience if they wanted it to be a massive marketing beat that came with, the marketing beat that maybe came with a free weekend. You'd probably want a solo so people could just feel like they could immediately jump in. But yes, funny enough, in an MMO, it might involve a team. There's also then another thing. There's an epic time running neck and a time runner's chalice that currently has got heirloom quality. So again, we really have no idea what any of these are. But
stuff.
Yeah, so these are stuff, but the next thing is really bizarre, right? So it's the Time Walking Pandaria campaign and tuning aura. So tuning aura is what they use to just scale everything up, and you can see here, Pandaria Time Walking Season, Mainline 1, Alliance Jade Forest, which, of course, if you played Mists of Pandaria, you know that's just the Alliance campaign. Fighting to get the White Pawn. Spoilers, but transpires is Anduin. So this basically takes you all the way through to the 5.4 storyline. It doesn't seem like the legendary quests with Rathian are there, though. But maybe they're just not in that screenshot.
I mean, everyone 5.3 storyline, everyone 5.4 storyline.
Could be those.
Could be part of those, but if those have been needed from the game.
Yeah, there were some pretty cool scenarios that you did with Rathian.
The scenarios... Remember the scenarios?
Yeah.
They were fun.
Yeah.
Where'd they go? Where'd they go?
No.
Where did they go?
No.
No.
But those were pretty good in Thunder Isle. Basically, every week you got like a scenario, like a piece of story. I think the downside was sort of loot wasn't that exciting. I think they hadn't really. There were some things they just didn't have worked out, but they were able to do some nice little set pieces. So anyway, there's all of that, and then there's there's an aura for scaling all of this. So that's all quite weird because you look at all of this time running gear. And this makes you think of something that's really quite gameplay driven. But then you take a look at these storylines, and it just seems that is them scaling up the Pandaria storyline. Yeah. So I suppose I almost wonder, note how it says Pandaria Time Walking Season. So is Time Running Pandemonium going to be an experiment event thing that perhaps could also be paired with them doing this with the Pandaria storyline? There's a bit where I'd almost think, like, hang on, if they've had some sort of way to turn the Pandaria story into just one campaign you can go and do, that could be an interesting way to level an alt.
Yes. It depends on how they scale experience and if that's a part of it, because obviously they could just say, eat shit, no experience for you.
Either you make it hard and relevant for like an endgame character, but then because it's
you can't do that
silver proving ground.
You can't do that for quest content. Like
that's unfortunately.
You would need to redesign the entire game to have quest content be in any capacity challenging.
That's what makes me think that some of its value could be reward at the end, but maybe also some form of scaling to make it work with characters that are still leveling up.
I mean,
if you just want to level up some alts like right before a new expansion, and they know that people give a shit about alts because of warbands, I think that could make a lot of sense.
I mean, that's the weird thing, right? Because you want scaling, you want the scaling down and up of quests so you can level while doing quests. That's in the game.
Yes.
That's called Grow Me Time. So what then will make this different?
Turning it into a campaign in a way where it's actually presented to a player where you just kind of play through the whole thing. You're not taken to side quests. It's just one, cohesive experience, like just doing MSQ in FF14.
Now, There's certainly questions of how they would manage that from a structural level. But even if they do enough to go, well, here's the quest that everything else is hidden off your map, you can just do these and it'll roll you from.
Give it all a purple.
Forward.
Give it all a purple marker. Give it the the storyline quest UI. That's on your map or quest log. So there could be that. But then the other thing is the Siege of Orgrimmar, right? So it seems it could be the next Time Walking raid. I would certainly be excited about that. I would not be as excited as if it was Throne of Thunder. Throne of Thunder was an amazing raid. I absolutely love doing it. We did Throne of Thunder 10 at the time. It was fantastic. We dabbled into like a little bit of heroic, but then I think the season ended. But yeah, it was a really good time. It's a really good raid. I don't think Siege of Orgrimmar is as good of a raid, but I do still think it's a good raid. I don't look forward to Korkron Dark Shaman's trash. If they were to do this and just reduce that trash, that would be a real sort of nod to the players. So this is not like confirmed, but there have been some things like, say, the Korkron Warwolf appearing with a trader's tender cost of 7,899, which really did just seem like a placeholder value. Then Blizzard said that they don't plan in this blue post, they don't plan to offer mounts or other skill-based prestige awards from achievements, such as Cutting Edge or Head of the Curve or Gladiator, in the trading post. So they didn't say, again...
Didn't say we're not bringing this back. They said we're not putting in the trading post.
So we'll talk about the Slime Cat later on, but the Shadowlands Slime Cat, it wouldn't be on the trading post, but you will be able to get it again in Season 4, right? Yeah. So, there's that. Also, Garrosh Heirlooms, we saw some data be fiddled about with them as well. So, all of this is a big thing. They're doing something with the storyline content. They're doing something with the raid. But then we've got all of this gear. All of this gear that doesn't really make any sense in the context of doing the raid or doing the quests.
Yeah, because you try to put these together and go, well, if you're going to be doing any of this, you wouldn't need anything here. And there's a few things to notice, such as the item level being kind of weird here.
Yep.
Where item level 1, now this could all be placeholder stuff, it's just not finish it. But item level 1, that's not going to be very strong. No level requirements on these. And then when the item level goes up to 13, the requirements are level 10. Which, why would something be level 10? Well, when do you start playing the game? You start playing the game at level 10. Realistically, because you have your talent set up and, classes start at
5 minutes into a Plunderstorm match.
Yeah, exactly. Or depending how fast you are, 30 to 40 minutes into your starter zone. Or you just play a Demon Hunter and hit level 8 already. But so it's like you kind of go, well, this isn't going to be one thing, right? There's no one thing that all of this points towards. Because you can almost see it as like two completely separate things. Where the Time Walking Season of Pandaria and Siege of Orgrimmar Time Walking, you go, well, that's standard. That's what expect.
Yes.
None of that's experimental. Obviously, this is a bit of an experiment, but you can do quests again in a slightly better way. It doesn't really fit experimentation in the same boat that Plunderstorm was an experiment, and they're using experiment in the same vein here. They're not like pulling back expectations or anything by saying we have an experiment that's a lot smaller scale. Holly's like PvE focused experiment coming up, obviously extremely paraphrased. So that leads us to the conclusion that there must be something else happening as well as all this. These can't be connected.
And then that leads us to Vampire Survivors. So this, Wowhead and a few other data miners basically saw this scene script database file. Now these are commonly used for like mini games and cutscenes and just things like that in the game. And you can see Vampire Survivors mode, game mode, client scene, and Vampire Survivors mode, data creatures. That is certainly all a bit interesting and a bit suspicious, especially the way that it says Vampire Survivors mode, game mode. I don't know how Plunderstorm would look. I don't know if it has any scene scripts that maybe some comparing could be done. I literally don't know. But another thing that was data mined as well is these Witch Hunter hats and guns. And it's been one of those things like every time there's a new patch, you see Wowhead just have so many new models and things like that that they data mine and post. And it can be a little bit hard to know where that stuff's coming from. So much is from the trading post, but then also they've had the gold sink vendor, where as an example, you can buy the gold-plated Witch Hunter's carbine for 100,000 gold, which is quite a lot of gold. Gotta say, though, does look pretty snazzy. And then, of course, there was the Time Marshals version of it that was 500 tender. So all of this stuff, fairly interesting to me. Some of it's unused. You think about Vampire Survivors, the game, and you do look at those big hats and think, those kind of make sense. And I guess think about the Plunderstorm set, but imagine you have something of a sort of a similar level of detail, but, one of those hats is, take one of those hats and then imagine what the rest of it looks like if it's all vampire hunting. So, if they could say, hey, we have this big premium, cool vampire sort of hunter set, people could be excited for that.
No, I'm going to disagree entirely because why are there guns?
Yeah, true.
Should be a crossbow and stake fist weapons.
Yep.
And then you need to get a cameo in an advert or voice acting from Hugh Jackman. It's a callback to the legendary Van Helsing movie, which I watched as a kid and was thoroughly underwhelmed by. And apparently it's better than I thought.
Yeah, I've watched it.
Damn.
Like 3 years ago. And I watched it, and Artemis Fowl in close proximity.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I enjoyed Artemis Fowl tremendously. It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It was truly spectacular. To get back to the Vampire Survivors mode, though, well, I think this makes so much more sense to us now than it did back in December, whenever this stuff actually hit the news. So, taking a look at Plunderstorm, all right, think about how that combat works, think about how you're leveling up within a match, so you could totally have some sort of, thing where I take the upgrade system that existed for Torghast, right? Or for Horrific Visions. You could have something like that. You do your Vampire Survivors-like mode. Maybe some sort of thing kills you at the end, right? Depending if you make it to the end. You can then get some upgrades at the upgrade thing, keep on going. Eventually, be it resources or something like that, bam, you're happy. You get some sort of cool reward. And even just like the way you pick up XP. In a Vampire Survivors-like game, you pick up XP on the floor. And that's actually a key part.
In the same way you pick up plunder.
Yes, exactly. That's a key part of how those games are designed. Because the acquisition of your XP after the kill is a positional thing. So, there's a whole bunch of stuff there. You can get upgrades to increase your pickup radius. And all
that's why
things.
pickup radius is a very strong stat of Vampire Survivors whenever you want an AFK build, believe it or not.
Yeah.
That's why you also, the biggest game-changing upgrade you can get in Picayune Dreams, another Vampire Survivors-like game, is the one that magnets all the XP to you when a boss spawns. Genuinely incredible stuff.
Thing is odd, though. The gear that looks like it could be a Vampire Survivors thing is called Time Runners.
Yeah.
So that's the bit that doesn't make sense. So when it says Vampire Survivors, we could be going less inspired by, those sort of sets. Those kind of like Vampire Hunter set, like items that were data-mined. And maybe it could be some sort of Pandaria thing.
Yeah, so I saw someone mention in chat earlier, the thing that makes complete sense for an endless attacky thingy, stuffy, happening, fighty stuff is obviously the wall.
The wall,
and the Mantis Worm. So if you have like...
Oh my god, it would just be like that amazing, groundbreaking movie starring Matt Damon on the wall.
Absolutely.
Legendary.
Yeah, so...
Legendary Pictures did it. That's all you need to know.
You could imagine some combination of, especially... Now, some of this might be a little bit stupid because I see that the boots make you roll and I go, oh yeah, monks roll, so pandas. But obviously, like the Shadow Pan combined with some bronze stuff, some time running, you could very much see like a really strong concept coming together here. Excusing the Vampire Survivor kind of the witch hunter theme, obviously that could be a little bit of a red herring in that sense. So I think that
it's just that I think that's just like whatever. And I suppose one thing that people probably don't know as much is just the way that they actually do game jams internally at Blizzard, which it does kind of feel like with how some patches come out, maybe needing another week in the oven. It might be surprising that they have time to do game jams, but they do. I remember Eric Covington quote tweeted, so they did that, but with pirates or whatever about Plunderstorm. I know of some other things, some other like things that they've done as an example back, game jams with Torghast, and some of them were really cool, but I'm not going to say them because if, I don't know if the way that I heard it would then compromise the person who said, or anything like that. Of course, on good faith, right? I don't think Blizzard would be too angry at the idea that people will know that they do game jams internally. But that's how they kind of test out new modes, test out new ideas. And when you look at Plunderstorm, I mean, you can totally imagine somebody putting together like an MVP of what that combat would look like, and then that being kind of sort of lifted up. Because I think internally, the World of Warcraft developers, they'll take a lot of, they'll sort of approach loads of these things as game designers. And that's kind of different to approaching it as players. So if they're approaching this as game designers doing a bit of a battle royale thing, you can see how they're applying the craft of game design to that. You can see why that could be interesting to them. And perhaps as developers, they wouldn't really have sort of as entrenched in their head an anti-PvP mindset.
Yeah, just do stuff.
Yeah. Like, it's just kind of doing stuff. They're doing something that's cool.
Because you can't do a battle royale without PvP. Because then it's utterly toothless.
Yeah. You would need those. You would need those AI NPCs, but they would need to actually be good.
They would need to be good and also understand a completely different methodology of playing the game. Which is one of the things I'm sure, like the AI in the Island Expeditions is very, very, very much specifically, they'll know how to play Island Expeditions and they'll know how to use class toolkits at the time.
Yeah.
Which means obviously you move on, and if they inherit from class toolkits, they'll probably have instead of that, they probably have fixed versions of like what a class would look like, which means it would be an awful lot of work to make that. Where it's like, well, what if instead of making a load of AI do the fighting, what if we just have our players fight?
Oh my God, recruit your own players as the NPCs.
Exactly.
Incredible.
Exactly. So I think that kind of, it leaves us in a bit of an interesting situation where we don't really know exactly what's going on.
Yep.
We don't know exactly what's happening. And there is a very, I'm going to say, no, I'm applying a little bit of like extremely meta thought to this. I don't think this is unlikely to appear. Because first of all, it made it into the game. And obviously there's a lot of, as Agran says, anytime like SOD patches go up, he just goes on Twitter or on the forums and goes,
yes, beware.
Listen, there's a load of stuff in this build. It's there. Don't pay attention to it because not everything we put in there is intended to go live, stuff like that. So the fact that all of this is here and the surprisingly on top of what we're talking about, developers, like openly so now, as opposed to reading everything we say and hearing everything we say and not being allowed to comment on it. I feel like if we were chasing a complete wrong rabbit hole with this, someone would say, don't look at that, please. You're just setting yourself up for a complete nightmare like expectation. So I'm assuming we are going to see something that is a cool PvE experiment, probably with, obviously, either with NPC parties or with actual parties because there's healing going on here. And probably based on the fact that this is all cloth gear and has these, there's no main stat, you'll notice. There's no main stat and it's all got these build things, because you can imagine like from the design perspective of if you played any servers like game or any roguelike where you're building things and there's like a build craft element to it, it'll be all about stacking up all of these things. So you have, well, when an enemy reaches 10 stacks of chill, they suffer blah, 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 blah. Well, then maybe you'll get a shoulder, because obviously these are all wrist wraps. You'll maybe get like an Amos down here that also has the effect that gives, chill 1% chance of a chilled enemy to start burning. Stuff like that kind of keeps happening, all of that in those. So that could be that kind of element of buildcraft into this sort of trying to capitalize on the fact that every 3 to 6 months, a new roguelike with a strong buildcraft element shows up and dominates Steam for ages. Hello, Balatro. I'm not buying you. Sorry.
Oh, that's what that is.
Yes, it's obviously it's like poker, but it's obviously heavy buildcraft, heavy RNG stuff. And there's another one that I saw.
Oh, Deep Rock Galactic Survivors. That's also what's his name? Simon Carlos does does a business newsletter within the games industry. It's one of the top sellers on Steam. And it's actually an interesting thing where the $40 price point has really set in and done extremely well. When you look at the top sellers, you see like $70 games are not really there as much. It's just a lot of those $40 heavy hitters like Pal World, Helldivers, Deep Rock Galactic Survivors, that kind of thing.
Yeah, turns out if you sell something for half price, more people might buy it. What an unbelievable thought.
Yeah, it's like you can pay $40 just to get the bit of the game you actually care about instead of the $70 version of it that has also got a single player campaign in it that's, shit. And,
Yeah.
Suicide Squad. But anyway, that's not really what we're talking about.
Yeah, there's also something else. I'll just say this for sheer cloud purposes. There's a game that you may hear about reasonably soon called Slice and Dice. It's a tactical dice rolling roguelike that's currently got 98% positive reviews on Steam with 500 reviews and it's $7.50. It's like, that's going to blow up. It's probably, possibly, maybe. Maybe. Anyway, yeah.
So you've put your clout flag in. You're like, I was an early adopter.
Yeah, I haven't bought it.
It's like with Mini Healer? Mini
Healer, yeah, but that didn't blow up. That didn't blow up because it was about healing and no one wants to heal.
Got a fair few sales from the video though, which was nice.
Good ass game. But
Indeed.
Yes, so I expect we'll find out of this stuff very soon. Now, it's 10/7, which means a while off yet. I would expect to not actually see that live on servers till May. Because we have season 4 to do first. Obviously, everyone kind of...
Oh, of course we have season 4 to do.
Everyone kind of forgets because Plunderstorm's up for another 4 or 5 weeks. I can't remember how much time has passed since it started.
Should be enough time for me to get them a million.
I hope I can hit around 40.
Weekly. Here, if we play duos.
Sorry, Dragon's Dogma 2. Literally,
Fair.
Anyway.
But if we play duos, you'll get your 40 and I'll get my million and everyone will be happy.
Fantastic.
Somebody actually just hit a million. But anyway, this is not the Plunderstorm show.
Solar power, yes. So will they PDR test this? That's a question.
No, absolutely not.
No. Okay. So then we will not see this until it's announced at some point, probably late April.
We have seen 10.2.7 stuff hit, I think, WoW Dev 3, which is one of their internal test servers.
I'll check with Algalon.
So Algalon posted that. Algalon is a bot. I believe the person who made that actually is either a current or ex-Destiny 2 developer.
Yeah, it's Gustopheles, and he's an is an ex-Destiny developer and does a bunch of stuff for WoW.
So it's really cool. It basically tracks whenever Blizzard are uploading builds.
It's WoW Vendor too. Oh yes, that's right. I talked about this in the WoW News script a while ago, and it was the thing that I found, which was the 10.2.7 is on WoW Vendor 2.
Yes,
which is what 11.0 was on until they moved 10.2.7 onto it instead. Now.
They cancelled the War Within. They've stopped testing early.
Yeah.
Deary me.
WoW V2 got 11.0 just before Christmas.
Holly sent it back to the chef.
Yeah, and we know that because they talk about it fairly often, we know that Blizzard basically whenever there's a big thing happening over Christmas, they put their big thing for testing.
Yeah.
They put it on the servers for internal Blizzard employees to go, you've got a break over Christmas, go if you want to play the new thing and give us feedback, please do. As a little bit of homework, which is game dev, that's how it works. But then they moved 10.2.7 onto that distribution point, which implies to me that they're potentially going for wider testing with this.
That's amazing, Matt. Do you know what we could do?
Yes.
We could put all of a week's videos up on our channel early for our team to watch over the weekend.
We could do that.
And test. Wouldn't that be lovely?
Yeah, no, our members do that for us. Yes. But so I think they actually might be doing a little bit of wider testing on this than you would expect. If they're it could just be nothing. Could just be we've nothing to test in the War Within because we've tested all this build enough. We'll get back to it later. But that was kind of my thought when I saw that posted by Algalon. I was like, that's an interesting place to put that. I could be reading too into it because this is to be an online commentary, you have to be just a little tiny bit schizophrenic. But yeah, likely not see it for a month.